Hello everyone, welcome to another stream. Today we are going to be talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Spoilers are ahead. We are diving into everything today. If you haven't seen it, please stop watching this video. Please, I beg you. There's some people out there that are weird, they like spoilers. Please, respect yourself. Allow me to respect you. Exit the video, okay? But if you've seen it, beautiful. Then we have an opportunity to sit here with the chat. I know there's a few people in the live stream right now. What's up, Joe? What's up, AK? We're going to go through it, talk about it. The way that we're going to do it is I'll start with just overall thoughts, how I felt about the plot, the premise. We'll go through individual performances of each actor and characters. And then we'll talk about future predictions. What are the implications of this universe? And then we'll give our final rating of the movie. So I know a lot of you guys are probably aware of a lot of the critique this movie has been getting. I will let you know right off the bat that although the ratings have been as low as I've seen from the boys over at Redox Cinema, who they invited us on to their Last of Us episode, they've been rating it like 2, 5, 3, which is very low in my opinion. I think there's only one movie that I've ever seen in my life that was lower than a 3, and that was what's that movie called? Midsummer. Worst movie I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen a movie any worse, but we're not talking about Midsummer today. Okay, so Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'll save my rating for the end, but it is not as low as other people have been giving it. As far as the premise goes, you know, we've talked about here on the channel how Spider-Man No Way Home, for me, it kind of felt like they were looking for a reason to bring all the Spider-Men together, and they just, any reason that they had to bring them together would be good enough. And I never felt like Doctor Strange taking it upon himself to try and rewrite history in a way and wipe people's minds would be something that he would ever do normally. But in the movie, they needed a reason to get to the other 3 Spider-Man and to have the whole multiverse crash and things like that. So, you know, they just picked one and people ran with it. But people like me, I didn't like that. I wanted a real reason, give me an authentic purpose to why these characters would move into this part of, you know, their storyline. And I kind of felt that a little bit with Ant-Man and the Wasp as well. I had said in the trailers, them having a beacon reaching out to the quantum realm didn't make any sense. Like, why would you do something so stupid? And it's just like, hello. It's an unknown, untapped universe that you have no knowledge about, and your grandmother was trapped there for 30 years. Like, that's something you should probably, you know, be careful with. But in the movie, they decided to just go with it, and the reason why they didn't know anything about it is because Janet didn't want to open up about anything. She didn't want to talk about the 30 years that she was there with Kang and the war that went on there and the conquering that he had there. And although I kind of felt the same way like I did with Spider-Man, I thought, you know what? Her reasoning of living 30 years of trauma and then just feeling the weight of all that trauma, deciding not to discuss it at all, and literally closing off your life and just being like, I don't want to remember. I don't want to think about it. I'm finally back with my family. Let's just move forward. And for me, that was kind of a decent justification. I can understand as someone who's gone through hard times. I know many of you have gone through hard times. If you went through the hardest time of your life, 30 years straight, you know, once you're out of that situation, you probably don't want to talk about it or think about it anymore. So that was understandable, but I still felt that it was a little bit weak. I liked it because I ended up liking it because of how consistent she was throughout the film, of never really, she had multiple opportunities to open up and talk about Kang, and she didn't. And she just kept choosing not to. So even though they were in the midst of the shit and things were going bad, she still just didn't want to talk about it. And it wasn't until really, you know, more than halfway through the film that she finally decided to. So I thought that was an interesting point to talk about. And, you know, as far as the whole movie goes, the things that I did enjoy were, I thought the CGI was fantastic. I thought the uniqueness of all the different characters and all the different, you know, beings that live down in the quantum realm was very interesting. All the different character designs, like I can't even imagine the artist that went through the time to come up with all these unique designs and having to describe their abilities and stuff like that. And I thought that part of the movie was awesome. But I will say, Cassie, listen, I have nothing against her or that actor, but she was one of the main reasons why I didn't enjoy this movie as much as I would have. I thought her tone, I thought her facial expressions, she always looked like optimistic. Like even when Kang was about to like kill her, she's like eyebrows raised, like she just, it seemed like an actor who might have acted with CGI and green screen for the first time and just was a little bit out of touch with how the tone was during those scenes and what she was supposed to be seeing but had to imagine and things like that. So she always had like this shocked, optimistic face that just put me off every time. And I know that she's young and, you know, she might be irrational at points, but her ignorance was kind of like, I thought, weighing the film down a little bit. And it's been kind of a trend for Marvel now in these last few movies to start really trying to build the family side of Marvel and really appeal to younger audiences and people with kids and stuff like that. And that's been turning me off a little bit because I've been watching them for now 13 years and more than that, 15 years. I was at the first Iron Man, at the movies. I've been watching everything along the way. And, you know, I want to know that the studio is paying attention to me too and not forgetting the audience that has been there for all this time. And it's time, even after Endgame, like we're ready for these mature dark tones. And although I know it's still coming, and I can guarantee you in 3 or 4 years, once we get Kang Dynasty and all that stuff, that we're going to have a different conversation, because the one thing that I do understand is Marvel understands the waves. And you can't be at 10 all the time. You can't release an Endgame every year. It just doesn't work like that. The people won't be as committed to, you know, the tragedy that's happening to the movie because it just happened. It's still fresh, the other things that they're dealing with. So you need to have, you know, valleys and hills and stuff like that. So I think it'll get dark. It'll get very serious again. Kang is coming, and we'll talk a lot more about Kang later. I have some really cool theories that I've been working on and listening to. I've been listening to some Kang comics and things I'm starting to connect. So we'll talk about that at the end. But yeah, I thought Cassie weighed it down for me. And another character that kind of, you know, didn't help as much either was Ant-Man. I'm not really buying Paul Rudd's like I love you, Cass, my peanut. Like I don't feel that anymore. It doesn't feel as real for me from him. I don't know if it ever has. He's always had like a great light tone. I thought the first Ant-Man was awesome. Second one was good. So he has had that, but I don't know. Maybe I didn't buy into him and Cassie. I know that she is recasted. The original Cassie from Endgame, they didn't use that same actress. So maybe there was some chemistry thing going on there, but I don't know. I just didn't feel that whole like father-daughter story and like, you know, she just makes a lot of mistakes, but mistakes are what's, you know, are good for you. It's how you learn. Like, okay, I'm not, you know, stop talking to the 10-year-olds in the movie theater. Talk to me. I don't need this. And you're not talking to the parents. Like, you're not convincing them like, oh my, they're not walking away from the theater like, Ant-Man's relationship with Cassie really moved me and I want to be a better father. If that's not your goal, then stop making that the entire road that you're following on. Because I feel like overall, this movie was really trying to cater to families and a younger tone, and I feel like that conflicted with the fact that you're having Kang, who is Kang the Conqueror, other variant He Who Remains, who we saw at the end of Loki season 1. Like, you have to have everything that surrounds that character and the movie that they're in has to be felt, and I feel like they're supposed to lead the tone. But that didn't really happen. There were definitely moments where it was Kang's movie, and those were the best parts of the movie. Whenever it was back to Kang and Cassie, that was like, no, man, I'm here for Kang. Every time we saw Thanos, right? The 2 movies that we saw Thanos, 3 because of an end credit scene, but really 2. Or I know he was actually in Guardians as well. But whenever Thanos was on the screen, right? Infinity War, Endgame, those are the 2 most serious tones that we've had so far, other than Winter Soldier and stuff like that. But, you know, I felt like this movie should have been Kang's movie, and that was the mistake that they made. You know, maybe not even make an Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, you know, the third movie of the series. Maybe just call it Kang Quantumania. I feel like if you had committed to that side of the story and just gone with that, this movie would have ended up much better. So those are kind of the big critiques that I have for this movie. You know, there was obviously some comedic lines and stuff like that, some good, some not that great. But that's okay. You know, like, movies aren't going to hit with that all the time. I just felt like it came from that tone difference. That was the big mistake for me. So, you know, that's what kind of brought the rating down, which you'll find out at the end. I'm going to save that for the end. Okay, guys? So other individual performances, you know, Ant-Man and Cassie, what I would say were negative for me. I'm going to forget her name, but their mom, I just said it at the beginning of this video, but, you know, who was originally trapped down there. I'm blanking on her name, but she had a great performance, I thought. So did her husband. I forget his name too. But you guys know who I'm talking about. And of course, the man himself, Jonathan Majors. Kang was amazing, just as I would hope and expect him to be. Hank, thank you. And Janet. Perfect. Bella's holding up a sign for me. Thank you, baby. Them. But yeah, anyways, they were fine. I thought they were better. You know, Evangeline Lilly, who is Wasp, she's great too. But there's such few scenes of them that how much of an impact can they really make to the movie? So that's why I'm pointing out Cassie and Ant-Man, who were obviously the, you know, star and co-star. If anything, Cassie might have been more of a star in this movie than Ant-Man was. And that was another part that really aggravated me. But anyways, so Jonathan Majors, Kang, tone incredible. And as we see throughout the movie and in the post-credit scenes, which are so crucial, the ability that he has to portray these different characters and really own them and find their own voice is incredible. And he is on a different level of acting. And I just can't wait to see more of his variants and all these different styles that he'll be able to do and still make each Kang feel independent and unique. It's just like, that's different level of acting, man. And I'm so excited to see him in Creed 3, by the way, as well. That comes out next Friday, I think, or this Friday, actually. So, you know, that's it for characters, really. Kang was amazing. I know some people might have questions about MODOK. MODOK, for me, was like fine. Like, every time he was on screen, I had a good time. But isn't like, you know, he's not a huge takeaway for me. Unfortunate to see him die in the same movie. I thought they could have used him again. I thought his character design, I thought the face, of course, is funny, but it works. I mean, this is a comic accurate, you know, character or villain. So I liked what he looked like. I liked his design. I like that they tied it into the first Ant-Man villain. You know, that was cool, at least to give him a little bit more purpose when we see him on screen. It's like, oh, I kind of know who you are. But yeah, I liked him. The whole Dick comedy part was funny. I had a good time. Sad to see that he died in the same film that he appears in, though. That was a little unfortunate, but I thought he was great. No complaints. Like I said, my complaints really in this movie are Ant-Man and Cassie. Cassie being A1 by far. Like, I'm still frustrated today thinking about her character. But anyways, the future. Okay, we talked about the characters, we talked about the premise, we talked about oh, and also we do have to talk about where this sets us up to go, because the post-credit scenes in this movie were some of the most crucial post-credit scenes that we've seen in a while. So let's talk about the first one, which are all the Kang variants. Obviously we saw the Council of Kangs. So the Council of Kangs is all these different variants of Kang that he established in order to serve as like a board of, you know, when to make decisions and stuff like that and balance out the responsibilities. And we got to see them at the end. We got to see 3 of them. And the most important one that I think that we saw was the Pharaoh. King Tut. And he is the first version of Kang that is a villain. So when Kang discovers time in the comics, the first thing that he does is go back to ancient Egypt, and he becomes the king, the pharaoh of the land, and basically conquers that time period. So seeing King Tut was very, 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 very fucking important. Okay? Because I think that we are going to see King Tut in season 2 of Moon Knight. Because of many reasons. One, Kevin Feige, of course, the executive producer, he said that from moving on now forward, Kang is going to touch every corner of the universe. So that means that the main villains moving forward should be variants of Kang. Just like we saw in the second post-credit scene, okay? The second post-credit scene was of Loki, right? And who is he watching? He's clearly traveling back in time to, what was the first name? Mr. Timely. And clearly he was maybe one of the older century versions of Kang that invented time travel, and that was what was on stage. So clearly in season Loki 2, Kang is going to be the lead villain in that as well. And also, if you didn't know, do you guys remember who Ravonna is? So Ravonna we saw in Loki, right? I believe she's the woman who's like in charge of the TVA, right? Ravonna is the love interest of Kang in the comics. And get this, when they just did the new rerun of like retconning Kang and changing some of his backstory and stuff like that, this came out, and it came out recently. Kang, his love interest has always been, it's one of his kryptonites, is the fact that he goes through timelines trying to chase the love of his life, which is Ravonna. Ravonna in this new retcon comic is a Moon Knight. Yes, you heard me, is a Moon Knight. So how perfectly to tie in, it just all makes sense. So you guys can dive into that theory more. I bet you people are going to start talking about it. I haven't heard that theory anywhere else. I literally listened to a 2.5 hour video of Kang comic book today. And when he started talking about that, how Ravonna was a Moon Knight, I was like, oh my God, it's fucking connected. Oh my God. But it's what I've been saying, what we've always said. Marvel has a plan. This last phase has been a doozy. It's been too much too much and too frequently. And, you know, that was one of their mistakes. But I think that they know, out of recent statements that I've seen in interviews, that they're going to tone it down a little bit. They're going to start maybe dropping, you know, one show, one movie a year kind of thing to really start amping up the end of the story, because we can 100% probably say that at the end of this saga, they're going to restart the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So everybody's going to die, is my theory. Everybody. Literally everybody, every Earth, until we get back to one singular timeline, like Kang talked about at the end of Loki Season 1. If you haven't seen Loki, then you hated Ant-Man, because Ant-Man was carried by the weight of Kang and who we know he is and what he will be. And if you didn't discover Kang and Loki, then you're watching Ant-Man just thinking he's another villain, therefore not seeing him in a different perspective. The reason why I could enjoy Ant-Man a little bit more was because every time Kang was on screen, I had an elevated sense of awareness and like fear. I'm like, oh my God, this is the fucking guy, dude. Every time he's on screen, it's like, the shit is serious. Okay? So that is one of the first theories that I think is very important. And I think that is when we'll see him next, other than Loki, because Loki is now going to launch this new wave of where we're headed in the MCU, which is going to be important. So Moon Knight, that's going to be awesome. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in Guardians 3, although that could be a reach. The only reason I think that is potentially because Adam Warlock is being introduced in Guardians 3, and we saw him in the post-credit scene of Guardians 2, and in the middle of his forehead is the Soul Stone. And in the comics, he fights Thanos. He even yields the Infinity Gauntlet for some time, and he also sets up I forget what it's called, but the group to protect the Infinity Stones. So, and he defeated Thanos. So there's like, you know, there might be some greater world things there. I don't know exactly how he fits in the picture, but it's, you know, there's a potential. We'll see. I don't really have any theories for the Marvels. That's another one that's coming out soon. I don't know how they'll tie into that. The only one that made me think like how Kang would fit in there was the blue version of Kang that we saw in the Council of Kangs. He looked to have like a super high-tech suit. I don't know, like maybe, but I'm leaning more towards like Stark Tech or like Pym Particles for that guy. So I don't know. He might be more Stark Tech because that technology of his blue suit, it looked like a freaking cyborg. So I'm not sure about that one either. But the one that I was excited to tell you guys was about Moon Knight. So, you know, that's what I'm thinking about that. So those are really my overall thoughts, guys. That's everything that I'm thinking. And also, because someone just said it in the chat, who was it? Seb mentioned Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four. Thank you for saying that, because that actually reminds me. In the comics, King Tut, the version of Kang that goes back to Egypt and conquers it, he is defeated by the Fantastic Four. Guess whose movie we're seeing soon? So, Moon Knight, introduce that variant of King Tut, and then you set up, just like you did with Loki for Ant-Man, you use Moon Knight and Loki to then set up the Fantastic Four movie where they fight in ancient Egypt. That way you don't give them an origin story that we've already seen, and you don't jump them to present day and be like, oh, they were here the whole time? That makes sense. No, that doesn't make any sense. They had to have been somewhere doing something. Maybe fighting Kang in ancient Egypt. You know what I mean, man? It's exciting. It's exciting. And I just love that Marvel is so methodical in what they're doing. And I'm not saying this is exactly what's going to happen. I'm hoping it's going to happen this way. But, you know, we'll see. We'll see. I'm very excited to find out. And I believe from this journey on to the end of the multiverse saga, it's only going to get better. And, you know, if I have to take, here's my final rating. If I have to take a 7 out of 10 movie, 6.5, 7 out of 10 movie to start getting closer to Kang, I'll take it. I don't want to. You know, I do judge Marvel movies in a different light than I do any other regular movie because it's part of a cinematic universe. It's all tied together. You know, other pieces of content add implication to just one movie. So, you know, the movie isn't just its own identity. It's being carried by multiple other movies that are giving more weight to certain characters and stuff like that. So you have to rate it differently. You just have to. But that is my final rating. 7 out of 10 for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Didn't hate it. Didn't love it. But I'm not in the middle because for me, Kang, every time he's on screen, gives me 1 point, and then the CGI, the unique characters, and there's the way that they were, like, all of that stuff, you know, taking the goo to alter their language so that they could hear every language in English, like all of that character design and stuff, that's impressive and that's dope and that's so super sci-fi, and I loved that. And the CGI was amazing too. You know, there's multiple scenes, especially when they first fall into the quantum realm. Like, I can't even imagine how long it fucking took for someone to CGI that shit. Let alone they made this movie in 3D as well. So the people trying to 3D that shit, good luck, man. You probably had 20-hour days for 6 months straight. So for those reasons, I give it an extra point. That gets me to 7 out of 10. So that's it, man. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Thank you very much. Let me know in the comments. I know you guys are crazy in the chat right now. I just didn't want to distract from anyone who's watching this on a rewind exactly how I felt and not getting interrupted or losing my flow or anything like that. So after this video goes, you know, down, make sure you go in the comments so other people that come by can say or see what you guys have to say about this video. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it, man. I love you very much. Let me just give a shout out to everyone that came through the chat that I can see. Joe, AK, Ledge, Armand, of course. Yo, Trogi, thank you very much. Seb, who else? Yo, VV, Vavoch, Thank you guys. I don't think I'm missing anybody, and anyone who's lurking in the background. I appreciate you, and anyone who's watching this on the rewind. Appreciate you very much, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I will be back tomorrow for some more Hogwarts Legacy. Also, for exclusive for members, we're dropping episode 4 of Batman tomorrow morning. So I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you very much for stopping by. I love y'all. Bye-bye.